often say to you, don't you, on the show that, Hollywood stories fascinate me, as I'm sure they do you, simply because we watch them, these movies, these big spectacles, mega musicals, say from the Busby Berkeley, remember, the Gold Digger series, the Wizard of Oz, all of those perennial favourites, particularly at the festive time. And then, of course, there are movies that seemingly take life of their own, I don't know if you realise this, but when Basil Rathbone first starred as Sherlock Holmes, they weren't instant successes, for the Universal Film Studio. They basically developed, people suddenly thought, well, yeah, we quite like them. And what really made them take off was them being screened on TV. Yes, they did reasonable business at the box office, but actually Sherlock wasn't hot box office for Basil Rathbone, hence the reason he tried to diversify. But this particular story I wanted to share with you today fascinated me simply because I was lucky enough to meet both of the stars in their time. It was a movie way back in 1960 that literally put the fear into so many people. And when I say fear, you didn't want to take a shower anymore. You know what I'm talking about now, don't you? The epic from Hitchcock, the wonderful Psycho, starring Janet Leigh. But did you know it could have starred somebody completely different other than Anthony Perkins? As ever, let me explain. Hi, good morning on this wild and windy day here in the United Kingdom. As you can tell, hair's flying everywhere. I know. It's nice to be out in the fresh air though. I know people say, Neil, cover up more. I do like to get out and about. I think it's good. Yeah, you agree. Well, I can see you agree with it. Yes, I can see that you agree with that. You're all covered up, aren't you? Next to a roaring fire, or at least got a lovely fan heater going or something like that. If not that, a hot water bottle. Isn't that a treat? Hot water bottle and a blanket dropping off on the sofa. You're doing that? Yes. Well, back as ever to your Hollywood story of the day. I know I'll have to hold on to this camera. Could be a bit tricky. Now, what's interesting here is, as we know, Psycho was a wonderful movie. Still gives you the chills today, doesn't it? And Janet Leigh told me that she had no idea really what was planned, because that now infamous scene inside the shower, well, it wasn't necessarily written down like that on the page. She said that Hitchcock really was rather strange about the way he presented certain facts and figures of certain movies, as you can imagine. But what was also interesting was that, according to Janet, and then backed up by her then ex-husband, Tony Curtis, the man, of course, who Janet had starred with way back in the early 50s in movies like Houdini, which was a huge success for them and Universal Films. Well, Hitchcock quite liked the idea of Janet and Tony re-teaming, literally bypassing the idea, which people don't realise, that of Tony Perkins. Now, as we know, Anthony Perkins, brilliant actor, and really defined by that particular role. But what was interesting was Hitchcock liked the idea of the dynamic of a real-life married Hollywood couple, seeing how they would react to each other. The bigger problem as ever, which really happened for Tony Curtis a lot, was that the screen testing people felt he's just too good looking. They wanted somebody more sinister. Plus the fact, as Tony told me off the cuff, he and Janet were having terrible marital problems, on and off, getting back together, all of that sort of stuff. So it wasn't necessarily, as many people thought, a match made in heaven. What was interesting though was this. A beautiful lady called Marley Renfro was in fact the body double for Janet Leigh in that infamous shower scene. And the reason being was that Janet steadfastly refused to appear naked. Didn't matter what he said, what he did, she wasn't doing it. Plus the fact she had, shall we say, a few inhibitions about her own body. Nothing wrong with that, ladies, obviously. But I like the fact that she stuck it out against Hitchcock. By that particular point, of course, he was looking to diversify from movies like Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe and Jack Lemmon and become something of a more serious actor. And as he pointed out, he never really found out why bosses decided against casting him. He was told it was simply that he was too good looking, but he felt like this was a sort of excuse that people did time and time again. Do you think Psycho would have worked? And was Janet... Do you think Psycho would have worked with Tony? And was Janet right to insist on a Playboy body double? As ever, let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you can, please do like and share. Neil Sean in the very heart of Yorkshire.